All right, let's dive right into this explainer. We're looking at how 2025 officially became the year that cutting-edge technology fundamentally revolutionized our ability to see the ancient world. I mean, we're talking about a massive paradigm shift where we are quite literally seeing the invisible. From uncovering massive lost urban networks swallowed whole by the jungle to reading ancient texts that were turned to ash millennia ago, the tools we have today are suddenly allowing us to bypass the physical barriers of time and decay altogether. And what's truly wild is the leap we've made. We're finally moving away from the era of just moving dirt with trowels, that grueling process of physical excavation that takes decades of slow, manual labor. Instead, we're leaping headfirst into 2025 archaeology. We're using digital tech to bypass physical barriers entirely. We're no longer limited by what we can physically dig up or what we can see with our own eyes. We're using lasers to peer straight through dense forests and artificial intelligence to see right through solid carbon. Okay, part 1. LiDAR strips the jungle, the Upano Valley. Let's head over to the dense, incredibly steep foothills of the eastern Ecuadorian Andes. This is a landscape so thick with vegetation that it's historically been nearly impossible to survey on foot. For decades, researchers totally knew people lived out there, but the canopy completely hid the full picture. That is, until LiDAR came into play. Light detection and ranging is basically a massive game changer for jungle environments. Archaeologist Stephen Rosting's team use airborne LiDAR scans to digitally strip away that massive tree canopy, literally filtering out the jungle growth to reveal the bare earth beneath. And what they uncovered wasn't just a handful of scattered villages. As soon as that digital canopy was peeled back, a dense, totally hidden urban network spanning over 100 square miles was instantly exposed. Now, get ready for this massive number: 6,000. The scans revealed over 6,000 earthen platforms arranged in these precise geometric patterns. We're talking about the foundations of houses and ceremonial buildings constructed by a completely lost culture that thrived deep in the Amazon basin starting around 500 BC. Without this tech, these massive complexes just look like regular hills under the trees. And the sheer scale of the central planning here is just mind-blowing. They were building earthen platforms 40 feet wide and 10 feet high just to keep their homes above the floodplain. They organized distinct neighborhoods around central plazas and even dug out complex drainage canals to manage all that heavy tropical rainfall. But honestly, the craziest part? They built perfectly straight roads that were 30 feet wide. These absolutely weren't just winding little footpaths in the woods. They were ancient highways designed for heavy traffic, cutting directly through hills just to maintain a straight line. To really put that scale into perspective, this ancient Amazonian civilization supported a peak population of somewhere between 10,000 and 30,000 residents. That is roughly the exact same population as the capital of Roman Britain. It completely rewrites our understanding of pre-Columbian South America, proving once and for all that the Earth itself, hiding right beneath a tropical canopy, could conceal a sprawling metropolis. Moving right along to part 2, X-raying the Eurasian steppe, the city of 7 ravines. We're shifting gears from the dense Amazon to the wide-open grasslands of Kazakhstan, where a totally different type of new tech is shattering a very old historical myth. The backstory here is wildly cool. Think back to the 1960s. Cold War, Corona spy satellites actually snapped high-resolution photos showing these faint, really strange geometric shadows overlooking the Irtysh River. They were way too organized to just be natural formations, but it literally took decades for our ground-level tools to catch up to those initial satellite photos so we could finally figure out what those shadows actually were. Enter magnetometry. Think of it as basically an X-ray machine for the dirt. In 2025, researchers brought in advanced drones equipped with this tech. It reads magnetic anomalies beneath the soil, mapping out buried features without anyone having to lift a single shovel. And what this terrestrial X-ray revealed was Semiarka, a massive, sprawling Bronze Age metropolis from 1600 BC that had literally melted back into the landscape over thousands of years. Now, what those ground X-rays mapped out was incredible. It wasn't just some large, temporary campsite. It was a highly planned, permanent industrial superpower. Sure, they mined copper locally, but they were importing rare tin from the Altai Mountains hundreds of miles away. They were doing complex co-smelting to create 12% tin-bronze alloys, essentially running a vast continent-spanning supply chain long before the Silk Road even existed. Dr. Radovayevich absolutely hit the nail on the head when she called it a true urban hub of this steppe. This forces a massive rewrite of history. It proves that these nomadic tribes weren't just wandering herders lacking architectural skills. They had the advanced engineering knowledge to build massive, grid-planned capital cities whenever they felt like it. They just usually chose not to. All right, part 3, AI reads burned scrolls, the Vesuvius challenge. Now we are zooming way in from macro landscapes down to the microscopic level. We're heading over to the Villa of the Papyri, a library completely buried by Mount Vesuvius back in 79 AD. Imagine lumps of charcoal that actually contain the only surviving library from antiquity. When Vesuvius erupted, it baked these texts into what looks exactly like burnt logs. For centuries, this was just an agonizing puzzle. Using physical tools like knives to try and pry them apart only destroyed the fragile baked ash. It was infuriating. We possessed all this lost ancient wisdom, but it was completely unreadable, ready to turn to dust the second we touched it. So, how do we read them without destroying them? Computer scientists led by Dr. Brent Seals came up with this brilliant 3-step process to unroll the scrolls digitally. First, they use a literal particle accelerator to shoot high-energy X-rays through the charcoal. But here's the catch. The Romans used carbon-based ink on carbon-based papyrus, making the text completely invisible on a normal X-ray. So step 2, they trained AI to detect the microscopic crackle pattern that the invisible ink leaves on the page. Finally, they used that data to digitally unfurl the 3D text right on a computer screen. And in late 2023, that theoretical process became a stunning reality. A student's AI model detected this single word, porphyros, the ancient Greek word for purple. That one single digitally recovered word marked the very first time in 2,000 years that a human being had read a word from inside an unopened, carbonized scroll. I mean, what a totally massive game changer. And it didn't stop at one word. The text scaled up incredibly fast. By early 2024, AI had deciphered entire columns of lost Greek text, unlocking a previously unknown work by the philosopher Philodemus. We're talking about discussions on Epicurean philosophy, debates about pleasure, food, music, even name-dropping Xenophontus, a legendary flute player. We are literally dropping in on an intellectual Roman conversation that was cut off mid-sentence by an exploding volcano. Which brings us to part 4, the future of the past, unlocking the archives. Now that we've proven AI and advanced imaging can read the unreadable, the implications for 2025 and beyond are huge as we scale up this virtual unwrapping process. We basically have a proven technological production line now, fully capable of resurrecting lost books from the dead. And it's not just about the unexcavated main Latin library at Herculaneum, although that is huge. This AI imaging can be aimed at everything. Medieval manuscripts that were glued together to make book covers, brittle unopened scrolls from the Judean desert, even ancient Egyptian papyrus that was recycled into mummy cartonnage. It really is the ultimate irony of history. For 2 millennia, Vesuvius erupting was viewed purely as this massive tragedy. But that exact same carbonization process that made the scrolls impossible to physically open is what made them completely immune to rot and decay. The volcano locked them in an airtight time capsule, just waiting patiently for our tech to catch up so we could finally open it. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I've got to leave you with this thought. Just think about everything we've covered today. Lasers completely stripping away the dense Amazon canopy to reveal thousands of hidden structures, ground X-rays exposing Bronze Age grid cities on the harsh steppe, and AI reading invisible ink locked inside literal volcanic charcoal. We have truly only just scratched the surface. If an AI can read a burned scroll and lasers can uncover a massive jungle metropolis in just 1 year, what invisible secrets is the Earth going to yield next? Keep your eyes open because history is rewriting itself every single day.